You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan on We Act Radio, 1480 AM.
Welcome to Women's Media Center Live. I'm Robin Morgan. You're tuned to We Act Radio 1480 AM in the Washington, D.C. area, or you might be streaming us live through audio and video links at WMClive.com. To the U.S. audience, happy day, women won the vote, and a special welcome to the international family online from, that I know of, Brazil, Egypt, Germany, India, Italy, Kenya, the Philippines, South Africa, Spain, the United Kingdom, and the pioneering feminists in Kurdistan. With this show, we hope to go behind the camera frames and between the headlines into what I call the alternative reality that most women inhabit. Our media is still staggeringly comprised of pale males, and the public gets half the talent and half the story. So we want to expose the real impact of this on men as well as on women. We want to have a safe house here in this hour for extraordinary guests, national and international, famous and not yet famous, to come and relax and be honest. A few practical words. If you miss one of the shows live, you'll be able to find us as an iTunes podcast, a YouTube video, and a transcript of the show the day after at womensmediacenter.com. We're not going to be able to take calls, at least not at first. But we do have a comment line, and I'd really, really like to hear from you. The comment line is, haven't memorized it yet, 347-903-WMC1. And we'll also check for comments on Twitter, hashtag WMC Live. We share the mission of the Women's Media Center, or the WMC, which was founded only 7 years, how time flies when you're making revolution. Only 7 years ago by Jane Fonda, Gloria Steinem, and me. And that mission is to make women visible and powerful in the media so we can all have a real democracy. You can find out about and be part of many interactive programs on the website of womensmediacenter.com, and I can't resist. I want to share some of them with you now. This is not a commercial. This is an act of pride. Women's Media Center does media training. Progressive Women's Voices trains women in media skills and leadership skills, because in the age of information, wow, do we need those. Media monitoring and activism. Sexism sells, but we're not buying it is a program that we initiated back when the last presidential campaign, when Hillary Rodham Clinton was being vilified. But we haven't only defended women of progressive bents. We've defended Sarah Palin and Michelle Bachmann. In other words, whether you agree or disagree with somebody's position, then confront them on their position. Don't confront them on their gender. When you demean one woman for being female, you demean us all. Then there's Name It, Change It. This is one of my favorites because media monitoring and rapid response. We have wrung apologies from some of the major male anchors and talk show hosts for sexist remarks through pressure. Name It, Change It is a really special program. And then there's hashtag She Party on Twitter, which is a happy hour every Wednesdays. I think it's, from 3 to 5. A lot of programs for media and girls. Progressive Girls Voices, training girls in media skills so that they grow up empowered. Girls State of the Union, Spark. Then there's media experts. You know how they always have said, well, we would have them on, but we can't find qualified women. Well, there's no more excuses, because SheSource is the Women's Media Center huge database of women experts on virtually every subject. All issues are women's issues, so why shouldn't we have experts on every subject? Then there are special media initiatives like Women Under Siege, which is a new project that tracks and documents how rape and other forms of sexualized violence in conflict zones in the 20th and 21st centuries have factored into genocide, and because they weren't given attention by the media, it turned into genocide. If they come for us at night and you do nothing, they come for you in the morning. And then there's media content on the website, new features that our web editor, Mary Tom, assigns and edits from known and not so well-known writers and activists and journalists, but on subjects and with a passion that they're not usually free to exercise elsewhere. And then there's publication. The publication that blows me away is the 2012 Status of Women in Media report. If you have curly hair, it will straighten it. If you have straight hair, it will make it curly. So visit the website. The statistics alone are worth the trip. Did you know, for example, that less than 13% of talk show hosts are women? Which reminds me that I want to pay credit in sisterhood to those feminist hosts preceding this show who are highlighted in a feature right now on womensmediacenter.com. Sisters, I'll try to do you proud. So now to the rant. Well, the rant. The first thing to say about the rant is that the views expressed in this rant are mine alone, and the commentary does not represent the views of the Women's Media Center. The second thing is, these are people and issues that made me talk back to my TV and grind my teeth this past week. For example, folks who think Paul Ryan has sexy eyes. What? Are they into ferrets? For example, Julian Assange. You know that he's been wanted for some time in Sweden for questioning on accusations of rape, sexual molestation, and unlawful coercion brought by 2 women in Stockholm. So he's fled, and he has been in Britain, which wants to extradite him to Sweden, and he fought court cases, and he lost court cases, and so now he has taken refuge in and been given asylum by Ecuador in their embassy in London, from whence he holds forth denouncing women in Sweden as feminist, denouncing Sweden as feminist. Take that, Sweden! And posturing himself as a martyr to free speech and journalism because he claims the U.S. is vamping on him because of WikiLeaks of classified documents. But the interesting thing to me now is that this great champion of press freedom and martyr to it is taking refuge in Ecuador's embassy. The current president of Ecuador, Rafael Correa, and his regime, that's a leftist regime, but it's authoritarian, has been accused of persecuting and jailing journalists who criticize him and his policies. So I'd like to know what part of no and what part of cognitive dissonance Julian Assange does not understand. So many troglodytes, so little time. Teeth grinder, Todd Akin. Well, by now, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on this because we've all heard 24/7 about his claim that victims of legitimate rape have mystical, mysterious biological defenses that somehow shut down our reproductive, we don't get pregnant. But I do want to add 2 aspects to this that I haven't heard given much or any attention in the press. In his willful ignorance, Akin seems never to have heard of ethnic cleansing rape, as in the former Yugoslavia, Bosnia, as in Rwanda, too many places. This is where, one side of men, in trying to send a message to the other side of men, rapes their women, with the specific intent of impregnating them so that the conquering sperm eradicates their ethnicity. The motive is, in fact, impregnation to that rape. The other thing I want to add to the discussion is that the term criminal sexual assault and the concept of degrees of criminal sexual assault was won through years of work and effort by feminist lawyers who were trying to expose the history of the definition of the crime of rape in English common law, and it's a very patriarchal history. Rape originally meant the violation of an unmarried virgin in English property law. She was the property of her father. Marriage was a property transfer from the father to the husband. So if you violated the virgin, you were violating the property rights of the father. And that required no proof, just the father saying, you violated my property rights. But when it moved from that property context into the individual context and the woman became involved, suddenly you needed proof. Suddenly you needed evidence of struggle. Suddenly you needed coercion. Suddenly you needed a prompt complaint, none of which was applicable for robbery or for murder. I can actually remember back in the days when pterodactyls flew, a few decades ago, when marital rape in this country was not a crime. In fact, rape was defined as forcing sexual intercourse on a person other than the wife of the accused. Think about it. But there was stuff that made me happy this week as well. Curiosity exploring Mars, happy. The Perseid meteor shower, happy. The Augusta National Golf Club finally kicking and screaming, admitting women, happy. Look, I'm so not into golf. But I know a lot of business and political and media and power transactions take place on golf courses. And that's why they haven't wanted us there. And so wherever those transactions are taking place, I want women to have the right to be there. And last, almost happy making, I confess it, is Tropical Storm Isaac. Not only because it's named for yet another poor biblical son with patriarchal issues, father issues, Dad, you're killing me, but also because if I were a religious fundamentalist, I would bellow the following. Old Testament God. Extreme right-wing religionists who hath seized control of what was once Lincoln's Republican Party. Thou hath brought upon thyself vengeance for thy sins against women, and thou must sacrifice thy firstborn convention day, and be drenched not only in exposure of thy long-time sharing of Achan's calumny against women, but yea, drenched in the downpour of the tropics. Worse, because of the climate change thou denieth. Fortunately, I'm an atheist Wiccan, so I would never say that. But remember when Pat Robertson declared that the New Orleans devastation was the fault of Ellen DeGeneres? Well, and that's the rant this week. Now, we're not going to yell on this show, but that doesn't mean we can't practice verbal karate moves while being lethally soft-spoken. One is our interview with the media stance. Among the questions I would like to ask the media is the one about false equivalency. You know this one. This is the one where we organize a demonstration of 500,000 people on, say, abortion rights, and they organize a demonstration of 12 standing at the side of the road, sending us to hell, calling us baby killers, and the media says 2 sides, 2 demonstrations on abortion. I sometimes think that if they said the moon was made of green cheese and we said, actually, the media would say, sides differ over composition of the lunar surface. They also are preoccupied, the media, with 2 sides to every question. Well, there aren't always 2 sides to every question. First of all, sometimes there are just one. There are not 2 sides to the fact the world is round and not flat. That's fact. There are not, but sometimes there are more than 2 sides, 3 sides, 5 sides, 18 sides. If you have questions you'd like to ask the media, the comment line is 347-903-WMC1 and Twitter hashtag WMC Live. Another move in verbal karate is the surprise words really do mean things chop. Why do we ever adopt their terms like their phrase pro-life? They're not pro-life, not of the woman, not of the, if the child is already born, certainly not of the child. Aiken wanted to take funding away from school lunches. We are pro-choice, they are anti-choice. That's it. And last, the sexist word of the week and its gender-free alternative. Everybody knows about fireman and firefighter, but sometimes even feminists and well-intentioned non-sexist, anti-sexist men use words that have sexist roots without knowing it, unwittingly. So, this week's is the words disseminate, seminal, and seminar. They all stem from the root semen. But not just semen as the sole creative, crucial force to initiate energy. Well, it's one of them, but without the egg, not so much. So, for disseminate, we can use distribute. For seminar, we can use ovular. For seminal, we can use germinal. There, now you can play gotcha with your friends. So now we'll pause before returning with 2 very interesting guests, and in our last half hour we'll be talking to dear pal of many decades, Gloria Steinem, and we have breaking news coming up, but we need to take a short break for our listeners on We Act Radio 1480 AM. This is Women's Media Center Live, talk radio with a brain. I'm Robin Morgan, and we'll be right back.
Coming up, the teenager who has successfully launched a national campaign to get a woman moderator for the presidential debates. Emma Axelrod joins us next on Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan, 1480 AM on We Act Radio.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan on We Act Radio, 1480 AM.
Smith? Jane Smith, your prescription's ready for pickup at the pharmacy counter.
Thanks. That was fast. How much do I owe?
There's no charge. This is covered without a copay now.
Thanks to President Obama, the 99% of women who use birth control in America could now hear this same message. You see, we scored an important victory when the president stood up for our health care and guaranteed insurance coverage of birth at no cost. He's making sure women of all faiths, no matter where they work, can get contraceptive coverage. But extremists in Congress are trying to change the policy by making it harder for women to get birth control with no copay. Call Congress at 202-225-3121 and tell them to stand with President Obama, not between a woman and her birth control.
Paid for by NARAL Pro-Choice America.
Over 13 million people are affected by famine, war, and drought in the Horn of Africa. Text GIVE to 777-444 to donate $10. Brought to you by the Ad Council and USAID. Text donations go directly to Consortium of Humanitarian Relief Organizations. Standard text and data rates apply.
And we're back. Are we back? We're back. On October 16th, for the first time in 20 years, a woman, veteran reporter Candy Crowley of CNN, will moderate one of the presidential debates. And on October 11th, ABC Newswoman Martha Raddatz will be moderator of the vice presidential debate. Why the change? Well, last May, 3 New Jersey teenagers not old enough to vote, Elena Tsemberis, Sammy Siegel, and Emma Axelrod organized a petition on Change.org calling for the Commission on Presidential Debates to appoint a woman to moderate one of the debates. Their petition drew over 115,000 supporters by mid-July, so they went to deliver the signatures to the Commission and were turned away at the door. But then came the victory. It's a partial one, since all the moderators still are European American. But the campaign did succeed, though the Commission, of course, will never admit it. Emma Axelrod, I'm pleased to say, is a graduate of the Women's Media Center Progressive Girls' Voices, and she joins us today by phone. Emma, are you there?
Yes, so great to be here.
Oh, it's so great to talk with you. Tell me, what propelled you three to do this?
Well, when we learned that there hadn't been a woman moderator for 20 years, we were shocked and wondered why we and our gender were being overlooked as people who could be totally awesome in fulfilling this role. So we just wanted to do something about it.
Oh, that's fantastic. Tell me, if you were the moderator, what kinds of things would you like to ask the candidates?
Well, I'd like to ask them about big issues facing our nation for all people, but also, of course, women's rights. Yeah. I'd like to ask them about their views on birth control and equal pay, why women are still earning 77 cents to a man's dollar,
Good things. Very good. Do you think that the other moderators will ask them these things in the absence of a woman?
They might, but it's so important to see a woman asking them, to know that women have their own role in deciding these important decisions that will affect our lives. So I think it's very important to see a woman up there, even if the issues will be addressed without them. Exactly.
You give me hope. Give an answer to the media that sometimes says young women aren't interested in feminism. I don't understand this because I speak a lot, and I see audiences with lots of young women and some young men, and they're all royally pissed for the right reasons, and I don't think I'm hallucinating them. And then there's you and Elena and Sammy. What would you say to people who say, well, younger women don't care about feminism?
I think that they're wrong. I know a lot of young women like me who are very concerned about the issues that face us just because of the gender that we were born into. Maybe some girls aren't portrayed in the media on TV shows and young female celebrities as caring, and maybe some girls who do care don't really know how to voice their concerns. But the concern is definitely there.
Oh, where are you going to take your concern from here on in? I should have congratulated you, by the way, on the success of this. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I hope you're celebrating. How has your life changed, by the way, since the victory?
Well, a lot of people have seen us on TV and like to congratulate us. I guess more than anything, the change is very internal because now we know that being able to create change is possible, and it's sort of freeing and liberating to feel like we have that power as young women. So more than anything, the change is internal, but I'm not really sure what our next steps will be. We definitely are interested in creating more equal representation, though.
Oh, that's fantastic. What do you plan to do yourself in your own life?
Well, I am definitely going to be putting a lot of attention into school in the next few years. I'm going into my junior year of high school, so that's going to require a lot of work. But I want to put myself in some powerful career position in my future, maybe create some of that equal representation by just being there and encouraging my female peers to do the same.
Oh, boy. You are fantastic. You give me hope.
You.
You know, you're the future, and the present as well. Thank you so much for being with us, and I hope you come back when you make more good trouble.
Thanks so much.
All right. Thank you again, Emma. Bye-bye.
Thanks for having me.
Wow. It's just, oh, wow. Now, for those of you who are, as I am, concerned unto panic over what's happening with voter suppression in this country, our next guest is of special importance. Melanie Campbell is the CEO and Executive Director of the National Coalition on Black Civic Participation. She's the convener of the Women's Coalition for Dignity and Diversity in the Media, and she's an expert in voting rights, civil rights, women's rights, election reform, and cross-cultural coalition building. And we wanted to talk with her about voter ID campaigns, the general scandalous voter suppression assault that's going on in our country. But because of her schedule, she couldn't be with us live today. So a few days ago, we sat down and taped this conversation. Let's get right to it. The voter suppression assault that's going on, despite the fact that there is absolutely no proof of voter fraud that the folks behind the assault claim is epidemic. It's just blatant suppression of the vote in target populations. So you're the expert here. Recap, if you can, briefly. We have limited time, but some examples of what's happening nationally in terms of voter ID laws in some places, or early voting restrictions, or I gather in some places poll watchers are even no longer permitted to tell people which polling places to go to vote. And then, you know, there's Texas and Ohio and South Carolina. Anyway, give us some examples.
It's a voter suppression tsunami. So if you think of places like Florida and Ohio and Georgia, Tennessee are examples of places where the early vote has been cut, where in 2008, that's what helped get the turnout up. You look at Florida, Texas, and South Carolina, they're making it more difficult for people to register. The challenge is that we're going backwards.
You know, the impact of these voter ID laws or the suppression in general is huge. I read about Viviette Applewhite, who is this woman in her 90s from Philadelphia, who had marched for voting rights with Martin Luther King and had voted in every single election since, I think, 1960. And because her Social Security card was stolen from her purse and she'd been adopted, so her birth documents didn't match her other whatever, it was bureaucracy, and she was not allowed, of course, then to vote. This is obscene. And
Yes.
it took her months, I think, to fight the bureaucracy and finally get a temporary ID. So talk a little about the impact of this suppression on especially the African American community, but also on older people and disabled people and students and single moms with small kids and caregivers who can't, get out at certain times. Give us a human impact report.
Your example of Philadelphia is placed in many places. Georgia, for example, you have to have a valid driver's license. It has to match. All of the information has to be current. Well, 36% of Georgians don't even have, over 75, don't have driver's license.
Oh, of course.
36%. That's not a black thing or a white thing. That's an American problem.
Yeah.
And so you have what is taking place. So at the end of the day, we know we have 76 days left. And what we have to do is it has to become a national movement to push back on this. And we know U.S. Attorney Holder talks about this being a modern day poll tax, and it is. It is.
It totally. I don't understand why.
Leaders have to jump up and get the voter IDs. We have to push back. Fighting. The lawyers are fighting. The legislators are fighting where they can. But we, the people, have to fight back and get those voter IDs and push back where we can to change some of those rules before the impact. Because I'm really worried about what's going to happen on Election Day when people show up who've been voting for 40, 60 years. Young people who voted for the first time in 2008. It's not a good thing for America.
You know, I cut my political eye teeth in the civil rights movement with guess what? Voter registration. So this is so basic to me. I mean, I don't understand why people aren't in the streets over it. I mean, this is the pulse of the republic. This is suffrage, and they're taking it away again. Right. Is there something specific that you can suggest that voters can do to make sure their vote counts?
Yes. Well, first of all, we say register, verify, vote. Verify everybody. I don't care how long you've been voting. Check your voter registration status. Right now, it's August. We got some time.
Right.
You can Election Protection's website. There's many others out there to check your status. Know if you need a voter ID. We have a Cost of Freedom app, web app, so people can check in any state. You can go to the National Coalition's website, ncbcp.org. Get your information. Information is going to be power. And then a lot of the organizations are working to help people if you cannot afford some of this stuff. Lawyers are there waiting on you. Election Protections Hotline. I'm working very closely with Barbara Unwine with the Lawyers Committee. They have lawyers now. They usually don't do it till like the month before the election. They have lawyers and law students on the phone at 1-866-OUR-VOTE. Pick up that phone and call and check your status first.
You're wonderful. Listen, we've got to go, but this is very helpful, and you're just fantastic. Would you promise to come back?
Oh, most definitely, and thank you for the invitation. Anytime.
Thank you. It's time for a short break. This is Women's Media Center Live, the talk show with a brain on We Act Radio, 1480 AM, and I'm Robin Morgan. Do not go away. There's lots of good stuff to come.
Barack Obama and Governor Mitt Romney should answer before they get your vote. You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan, 1480 AM on We Act Radio.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan on We Act Radio, 1480 AM.
Hey, it's your boy Richard Fowler. When I took this journey to start the Richard Fowler Show, I understand that it was bigger than me. It's bigger than all of us, you see. The only way we can truly create change in this country and to the world is by informing ourselves, empowering ourselves, and understanding how important our voices are to the power structure in this country. That's why we did it. That's why we created the Richard Fowler Show. This is our time. This is our opportunity. And most importantly, this is our movement. So join us every Friday night from 8 to 10 when we tackle the big questions of the day, when we talk about the real issues, when we get rid of the talking points, the talking heads, and the smoking guns, and we talk about how these issues really affect you. We can't wait for you to join our movement every Friday nights from 8 to 10, only on We Act Radio.
Over 13 million people are affected by famine, war, and drought in the Horn of Africa. Text GIVE to 777-444 to donate $10. Brought to you by the Ad Council and USAID. Text donations go directly to Consortium of Humanitarian Relief Organizations. Standard text and data rates apply.
Hi, hello, welcome back. We're back again. This time, we're on the phone, I hope we're on the phone, with Gloria Steinem, who is somewhere in the Pacific Northwest trying to finish a new book, which attempt I am dismally interrupting. Gloria, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, that's a comforting voice. Happy Women's Equality Day.
Yes, happy day to you, absolutely. And, I want to share, in the midst of things that are not so cheerful, I would like to share the very cheerful place I am, which is called Hedgebrook, and is a women's writers' retreat or advance for women all around the world, and is free, and a half a dozen terrific women get all day to themselves on wonderful Whidbey Island, and then have great conversations at the kitchen table at night.
Sounds very good. And what did you say to me the other day, that you're a short walk away from a field of lavender?
Yes, a beautiful, beautiful field of lavender, yes. This Whidbey Island may be someplace that people know, but if not, you should try it. I mean, it's a huge island, a ferry ride away from Seattle. And Hedgebrook is 48 acres with hand-hewn little cottages that people live in. It's truly beautiful.
Oh, and you deserve it. I hope you go wading in the field of lavender and just breathe.
Yes, absolutely. Actually, I have it here. I wish I could transmit it to you.
I could use it. Well, I'm going to be very unhelpful about this, because I'm going to pull you back from the field of lavender, but only for a little while. This is a conflict between me as your friend who wants you to not do this kind of interview, and me as now an interviewer who wants you to do it. So schizophrenic yet again. Have you had a chance to see the new University of Southern California Annenberg LA Times poll on media and politics and the press?
Yes, I've seen some of the results, and I think it's fascinating and important to know that so many more people are continuing to trust traditional and local media.
Yeah.
That's a very important finding. And also that the more media they consume, the more likely they are to vote Democratic. I mean, that has something to say about the different fact levels between the two parties. But I think overall it speaks to the fact that the most important thing is a trusted messenger, and I suspect that people still go more to traditional and local sources because they have some idea that the New York Times or whatever other traditional source is going to be trustworthy and accurate. And Robin, if you don't mind my saying so, I think that's the power of this radio show. People understand that you are not going to lie to them. I'm not going to lie to them.
This has gotten me in so much trouble for so long, the not lying, as you well know. But maybe now it's time for a little truth. So thank you, darling. Thank you for the support. Are we not proud? I wish Jane were here, and she will be in a few weeks. But are we not proud of what we hath wrought? I'm back in the Old Testament God. This is the newest thing, the newest baby of the Women's Media Center.
Yes, and I want to speak up for radio as a medium, because it is still the most democratic.
Yes.
Whether one is literate or not, whether you have expensive equipment or not. I mean, you can, wind up a radio and tune in, my dream is that one day we have a satellite so that around the world, with or without electricity, people can use wind-up radios, and especially women talk to each other.
Especially in the global South. I mean, it is the media, much more than any other kind. Okay, well, are you ready for some breaking news? Because I would like you to comment on this, just like as if we were a grown-up interviewer and a grown-up interviewee, and not just us. Breaking news, which has never been heard before, which we're breaking now, is brand new research out of the Women's Media Center, partnering with the Fourth Estate, which is analyzing media coverage of the 2012 presidential campaign election. They've crunched the numbers on the bylines of women covering the election. They've looked at 35 major newspapers, the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Boston Globe, all the major publications, to see how many stories were written by guys versus women. They looked at only straight news reporting, no opinion, no bloggers. They looked at all articles covering presidential election. It turns out 76% were written by men, 24% by women. The numbers are close for both primary coverage and general election coverage. During the primary, 76% of the articles were written by men. During the general, 73% were written by men. So, although I have an idea what you might say, you want to make a comment on that, please?
What can I say? Well, first of all, I think it's important as a proviso, in case people have just tuned in to us for the first time, that we are not talking about biology here. You know, we well understand that there are many men who are more pro-equality and feminist than some women. But it does make a difference whether you've been walking around for 40 years as a female or a male, or as a white person or a person of color. And so it is very important to have media that looks like the country.
Of course.
And this is profoundly, profoundly different. It's especially sinful in this election because the gender gap and the race gap are completely the other way.
That's right. That's right. And these are the folks who are determining what is news. I mean, how news will be consumed, defining it. Sometimes I think people believe that because we've, after much struggle, won the fight, so that the folks who are in front of the camera are a more representative mix, ethnically, gender-wise, etc. Sometimes you'll actually even see two female anchors together. Whoop-de-doo. But I sometimes think that people don't understand that what goes on behind the camera is where the real rubber meets the road. The producers, the directors, the folks who define what is news, and in this case define what is election coverage.
Absolutely, and what you were saying earlier is so important, that even the idea of fairness is that there are two sides to every issue, when in fact there may be one or 13. And furthermore, the definition of objectivity is being even-handedly negative.
Yeah.
So it is part of the reason that people get so frustrated with the media, because it's not reporting on positive solutions. It sees itself as mainly reporting the negative. But what also makes me throw my slippers at the television set are the generalities about the American people.
Oh.
I counted 27 the other morning on news. If we were one homogeneous lump.
The melting pot.
Yes, we're more like a big tossed salad with each element keeping its flavor.
An antipasto.
Oh. But if you think that we are 300 million multiracial, multi-ethnic, multilingual folks who arrived here somewhere between yesterday and 100,000 years ago, I mean, it is profoundly, profoundly different, which is partly what I'm trying to write about in this on-the-road book that has been going on now for a dozen years.
In other words, the concept of the Americans, the American peoples. What can we devise as the alternative?
Well, for one thing, we can reason from the bottom up instead of from the top down. For instance, I was in a school district recently where children speak 127 different languages. Yet that school district is subject to the uniform paper test of the district. And on top of that, since school spending is heavily based on real estate taxes, those students who need the most get the least. I mean, if these kids who speak different languages just have a little boost in the beginning, they are going to be the source of immigrant energy that this country has been created by, and they are also going to be links to other countries in the world.
It makes you crazy.
Right. And yet they are getting even less of an investment than the kids who uniformly come to school speaking English. So if we just if we just go on the road, so to speak, which is where I spend my life, but I mean, if we just look at the realities, we can make so much better decisions, and uniformity is not a virtue. It's the people who experience something probably are the experts at deciding what to do about it.
But that's always been the theme of the women's movement, that each woman is an expert in her own life, and starting back when rape in marriage was not a crime, she needed to be able to say, I don't want this. Anyway, we're going to have to take a break shortly, and then we're going to come back and talk about maybe the conventions that are starting, good news or bad news, I'm not sure, and about some new ideas that you and I have discussed that sound really very exciting to me. So we need to take another break. I'm Robin Morgan. This is We Act Radio 1480 AM, and you're listening to Women's Media Center Live, talk radio with a brain, which will be right back with, ta-da, Gloria Steinem.
Coming up next, more with Gloria Steinem as she reflects on the day women got the right to vote and the questions she has for the presidential candidates. This is Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan, 1480 AM on We Act Radio.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan on We Act Radio, 1480 AM.
Jane Smith, your prescription's ready for pickup at the pharmacy counter.
Thanks. That was fast. How much do I owe?
There's no charge. This is covered without a copay now.
Thanks to President Obama, the 99% of women who use birth control in America could now hear this same message. You see, we scored an important victory when the president stood up for our health care and guaranteed insurance coverage of birth control at no cost. He's making sure women of all faiths, no matter where they work, can get contraceptive coverage. But extremists in Congress are trying to change the policy by making it harder for women to get birth control with no copay. Call Congress at 202-225-3121 and tell them to stand with President Obama, not between a woman and her birth control.
Paid for by NARAL Pro-Choice America.
And we're back with Gloria in the lavender field. You there?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, I have separation anxiety when I don't hear from you. So let's talk just for a minute, not too long, about the conventions, because they used to actually mean something, and they're now week-long commercials. And yet, as a news junkie, I'm probably going to watch them anyway. The Republican one will be, you can go snowblind from watching it because it'll be so white. And the Democratic one will be a little more representative, but you think there's any, and I must say kudos to them on the platform plank about gay marriage. That they should have praise where praise is due. But you think there's anything salvageable in the conventions?
I do. If we consider the level of reality TV that we are usually on television, these are far, far more real. And they do have a virtue in the sense that people are together with all five senses. We are so used to the web and looking at a screen that we forget that the reflector cells in our brains don't work that way, that the chemicals of empathy don't work that way. There's a virtue to people being physically together as these people are. I don't think that we should turn our noses up at that. I would like to say one thing about the conventions, however, which is that the platform of the Democratic Party represents the majority views of Democrats, but the platform of the Republican Party does not reflect the majority views of Republicans.
Exactly.
Because the Republican Party has been taken over by a right-wing extremist group, many of whom used to be Democrats. I always feel I should apologize to the Republicans.
Yeah.
The old Southern Democrats who, beginning with the Civil Rights Act of 1964, left the Democratic Party and gradually took over the Republican Party. I think women especially feel this deeply because they are Republican by heritage, and the Republican Party was the first to support the Equal Rights Amendment.
That's right.
In many ways more in favor of equality than the Democrats for many, many years. So they have not left the Republican Party. The Republican Party has left
them.
And if we just look at the issues and vote for ourselves, I think we'll be fine. But we need to get ourselves out of this polarized situation in which half of the equation isn't even representing the people so named.
Yeah. There's a group of young Republicans that with women and men who are sort of young Turks who are rising against this, and who is particularly the social conservative. They may be fiscally conservative, but they're pro-abortion rights, they're pro-contraception, they're pro-women's rights, they're pro-gay rights, gay marriage. And we're going to have one of the women on the show in a few weeks, I hope. To encourage this, they should take back their party.
Yes, there could be nothing really more important than that, than taking back the Republican Party, because since we only have two parties, and one of them is controlled by a very small minority, we're just stymied. I mean, you see it in Congress most obviously, but you see it in the two sides to every question, one saying the sky is green and the other saying it's blue.
Well, also because the more right-wing they become, the more the middle moves to the right. So the Democrats don't have anybody holding their feet to the fire except us, and that they can ignore. I also wanted to remember a few weeks ago when we were playing with questions that we would like to ask the candidates, were there such a chance? And you had some absolute wonderful ones. Do you have any of those still in your memory?
Well, one has become stronger since there is new research out showing that the single most important element in whether a country is institutionally violent or not is not poverty, hunger, democracy, or religion. It is the degree of violence against women.
Yes.
Now, we've always known that the function of the gender roles at bottom was to get men to go to war and be masculine, and women to have babies and work for nothing and be feminine at the extreme. But this proves by data gathered externally that the status of women and the treatment and violence toward women is the single biggest indicator of institutional violence in that country. So I would ask both the candidates how this plays in their foreign policy. It's the single most important element in keeping the peace and keeping the spaceship Earth going. How does it play in their foreign policy?
It's a wonderful one. It's also nice to have scholarship validate what women have been saying all along.
Yes, absolutely. It's very helpful because it's objective from the outside.
That's right. Do you remember any of the other ones? There were so many good ones that you had.
Gosh, I'm trying to think. Well,
at a certain age, our estrogen goes and our memory just disappears with it.
I have my issues I've fallen in love with. Can I talk about those?
Of course you can. You can talk. This is our space. You can talk about anything UMS wants to talk about.
Well, it suddenly occurred to me that the very good-hearted people all over the world, and especially here, since this country has capital punishment and other democratic countries don't, who are working against capital punishment, that we all need to see capital punishment without gender divisions. So we need to work not only against what's perceived with and happens to a relatively few number of people, many, but a few, as capital punishment, and the stoning, all of the honor deaths, everything that is capital punishment for women. The first is state action, the second is state inaction, you might say. Both are capital punishment. So I would like to put this idea out there in the world to all of the good people working against capital punishment to open both eyes and get rid of the gender division.
It's very important. I mean, for years, you will remember this, we were pounding at the doors of Amnesty International because what was considered persecution was, in their mandate, state persecution. But of course, women don't, in the sense, exist in the public realm. We exist primarily worldwide in the private realm, in the home. So all of the tortures of women, sati, purdah, battery, you name it, child marriage, female genital mutilation, didn't qualify because they were done in the home. So to pose it in terms of, and AI has changed over the years, thank goodness, and that's a real step forward, great leap forward. But to put it in terms of state action or state inaction, I think covers that. And this would make such a huge difference in repositioning the stonings, the beheadings,
I want to write about it to get the facts out, and I will do that. But I think another way of saying it is that it's definitional. What happens to men is political.
That's right.
And what happens to women is cultural.
Yeah.
But actually, it is all political. It can be changed.
It's like, when men make it, it's art, and when women make it, it's crafts.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. What are some of your other wonderful ideas that you had? You said you had a wish list of ideas.
Because of all the recent disasters, certainly gun control has been with us as an issue for an extreme time. But because of the recent killings domestically and the demonstration at the United Nations that our gun control forces are also favoring the sale of arms all over the world, they are very, very powerful at the United Nations. It seems to me that only the women's movement is going to take up gun control. And this needs to be a big mainstream movement like Mothers Against Drunk Driving. We certainly have a right to because guns in the home are much more likely to be possessed by battering men, people who are violent, and also much more likely to hurt or kill someone who's in the home than to kill any intruder. Yet the whole gun issue is spoken of as if somehow it's protecting us. I think, both by default and by right, the women's movement per se needs to take up gun control.
This is a women's work is never done, isn't it?
Yes, true.
I mean, as soon as we win some, first of all, we never get credit for it because if I hear one more person say they gave women the vote, this is the day they gave women the vote. 50 years, 100 years, and women won it. But it never ends. It's just, and I always think, I think probably my dying word will be actually, and then splat. Because, I would love to stick around to see how it ends, but it won't ever end because there'll be more issues, and somehow it'll be up to us. Eventually, more and more men are taking up the cudgels and joining it, so that's encouraging.
Absolutely, and if the public opinion poll people had the wit to ask men in terms of issues and who is a feminist and who isn't, they would be very surprised.
They would be very surprised. We have time for maybe one more idea, if you have one more idea to lay on the world.
Well, I really would go back to basics and say if I had one wish for the women's movement worldwide, or for people who are trying to achieve a world in which we are linked rather than ranked, whether we are male or female or whatever country we can come from. But I would wish, this may make you laugh, but I think it's true, a worldwide AA, an Alcoholics Anonymous, that is a grassroots movement of small groups meeting by the Zambezi River, by the YWCA, in a church basement, all over the world. As with AA groups, where you can go, even if you move from one city to the next, you know that you can find a group. They're leaderless, they're democratic, they're free. And, we are communal creatures, so we need to have each other's support. If we're isolated and alone, we come to feel crazy.
Of course.
Of course, where all social justice movements start, whether it's black churches in the South in the civil rights movement, or the Chinese Revolution, or the women's movement and consciousness raising, and now we call them book clubs, but it's where movements start, and I think we forget that. We especially forget that in the Internet age, that we you can't raise a baby on the internet, and you can't raise yourself or change yourself on the internet either. We need the highest purpose of the internet, I would say, is to bring us together physically, and especially in small groups.
This is, you let you loose in a lavender field, and you come up with some very good ideas. We should do this a little bit more often, but the world doesn't permit it. Are you hungering for Chinese food? Because your women's group here is waiting for you to come back so we can have Chinese food together.
But Robin, I have a request before, if there's time this time or next time, explain why it is that this is your heritage, that radio is your heritage, why it is that you can time yourself down to the last millisecond.
Well, you would do this, wouldn't you? It's because you can still hum my theme song from when I was 4. I'll do it very fast, and eventually I'll do it in greater depth. Yes, 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 world. When I was 4 years old, I had a radio program called Little Robin Morgan. And Gloria claims that she heard it, and to this day she still can hum the theme song. And so that's one reason why I'm back. You return to your roots no matter what you do. I was a working kid and always wanted to be a writer, and got out of the business when I was in my teens by the jaws of life, extrication. So there, Gloria has outed me. Actually, I outed myself in the memoir, Saturday's Child, but you did it on the first show, and I love you for it.
I think people should know why you're so good at it.
Thank you. Bless you. I love you. We miss you. Take care of yourself. Think more good thoughts and smell that lavender.
Yes, and I'll see you very, very soon. And congratulations on this very first show for Women's Equality Day. It's great.
Thank you. Mwah to you. That is our show. Please remember to let us know what you think and feel. The comment line is 347-903 WMC1, 347-903 WMC1, and on Twitter, it's hashtag WMC Live. In addition to hearing us on We Act Radio 1480 AM in the D.C. area, you can find us streaming in real-time audio and video from links on WMCLive.com. You'll be able to find us as a podcast on iTunes, as a video on YouTube, and the day after each program as a transcript that you can access of the show at womensmediacenter.com. We are everywhere. You cannot escape us. Resistance is futile. Here is the family, the amazing, remarkable family for Women's Media Center Live. WMC President, and for this program, Executive Producer Julie Burton, Senior Producer Crystal Williams Chancellor, Online Producer Michelle Kinsey Bruns, Producer Peter James Callahan, and Production Assistant Nora Eakin. I'm Robin Morgan, wishing you a not too aggravating week. We'll hope to see you here again next Sunday, and please, meanwhile, remember, information is power. We can't have real democracy without it. Women are more than half the population. We can't have real democracy without us. That equation spells Women's Media Center Live. Bye-bye now.
Women's Media Center Live is brought to you by Regina Kulik-Scully, our superwoman for women in media. You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan on We Act Radio, 1480 AM.